Hello everyone, and welcome back to the HMI CEO's Bench. This is a space that we use to enlighten you about available opportunities abroad, give you more information on the available pathways, the licensure requirements, what your responsibilities is vis-a-vis the responsibilities of the employers or recruitment agencies like ourselves. We continue talking more about the deployment of registered nurses to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And today I just want to spend a bit of some time exploring more on the classification and the registration of you as a registered nurse. Two main entities in Saudi Arabia that are responsible for this. The first one is the Saudi Commission for Health Specialties, which is the competent authority in Saudi Arabia responsible for the classification of qualifications and registration of the healthcare professionals. The other entity is a third-party entity. We call it the Data Flow Group, which has been contracted by the Saudi Commission for Health Specialties to do two things. One, to verify, to provide what we call the primary source verification service, which essentially verifies your credentials. And two, most importantly, is to also confirm the legitimacy of the issuing entities. In this case, you have gone to the University of Nairobi. The University of Nairobi is licensed, or we say registered by the Commission for Health Education to offer degrees in nursing. So they check by doing a backward verification process with the Commission for Higher Education that indeed your school or your university has been licensed to offer that particular program. Let's start off with the classification. The Saudi Commission for Health Specialties has 5 main classifications. At the highest end is a classification that is called a nurse consultant. And you get classified as a nurse consultant if you have a PhD in nursing. So that means that you have acquired a bachelor's degree in nursing, you have furthered that to acquire your master's degree in nursing, and then you also have a PhD in nursing. So that gives you the right to petition the Saudi Commission for Health Specialties to classify you as a consultant nurse. Slightly below the consultant, we have what we call the senior nurse specialist, and this is a classification that is awarded to Masters of Science in Nursing holders. So you have acquired a master's degree in nursing. Below the senior nurse specialist is a classification that we call a nurse specialist, and this is a classification that is given to Bachelors of Science in Nursing holders. And this is the category of nurses that we are targeting for this recruitment drive that we are doing for the 600 nurses. We are specifically targeting nurse specialists. So that means as long as you are a bachelor's holder in nursing, then you qualify to get yourself classified as a nurse specialist. Below the nurse specialist is a classification called the nurse technician. This is a classification that is given to people who have gone through a nursing program for a minimum of 3 years. So in the context of the Kenyan nursing regime, we are looking at our diploma holders who usually do 3.5 years of academic training as a nurse. So then they qualify to be classified by the Saudi Commission for Health Specialties as nurse technicians. And then the last one that I'm going to be tackling is the health assistant. For people who have gone through 2 years of training as nurses. In our case is what we call the enrolled nurses. They do between 2 and 2.5 years to get their classification as health assistants. There is another category, but this is for nurses in training. So it's called the nurse in training classification, but we're not going to dwell on that because then it doesn't have a significance for us in this particular context. So those are the 5 major classifications. As I have said, we are interested in a classification called nurse specialist, and this is a classification that is given to bachelor's holders. So you'll be seeing in our adverts saying that the minimum requirement for us is a BSc in nursing. And the reason we are doing this is because the employers are interested in employing nurse specialists. So once you have got your classification, and the classification is done through the portal called Mumaris Plus, which is the Saudi Commission for Health Specialties registration portal. So you submit formally, your application should be registered as a nurse, and before you get registered, then you have to be classified and put into one of those 5 classifications. So let's just look at the documentations that you need to get your classification done. The first document that you need to submit then will be your qualification. So if you and I will use the example for the bachelor's holders. So you need to submit a certificate of your degree. You need to submit a copy of your transcripts. You need to submit a copy of the data flow report. We are doing the kind of primary source verification that we are doing. The data flow is at 2 levels. One, we are doing at your professional licensure level, so they have to go back to the Nursing Council of Kenya and confirm that you have indeed been registered as a degree nurse. But also 2, we are doing for the data flow primary source verification, we're also doing your education verification. This is where they go back then to your university just to confirm that you have gone through that program. So that report that has those 2 components, it has to have those 2 components when you're doing your classification. It has to have the health licensure component, and it has to have your education component. And then the third one is your experience letter. This is the document that now you receive from your previous employers. The minimum years of experience that is required for your registration is 1 year. So you need to go back to your employer, and your employer will issue you with an experience letter, which has to have your name. It has to have your start and end date of when you are working there, the title of your job, and a brief description of what you're doing in that particular with that particular employer. So those are the documents that you need to submit when you are doing the classification. The classification also has 2 components. What we call qualification registration. Assuming that you have gone to the University of Nairobi and there has been no candidate before you who has ever submitted a registration request to the Saudi Commission for Health Specialties, then it means that the University of Nairobi is not registered as education provider. So then you have to submit what we call a new qualification request to the Saudi Commission for Health Specialties to recognize University of Nairobi as a awarding entity. So that then becomes the first step. So that then subsequently anybody else who has gone through the University of Nairobi, they would be lucky enough because they would find the nursing program being issued by the University of Nairobi having been recognized by the Commission for Health Specialties. And that then becomes easy. So yes, today we have understood the 5 levels of classification. We have also spoken about the documentation that is required to submit your registration as a nurse. So once they go through your documents that you have submitted and they are comfortable, they satisfy themselves that indeed you are qualified, there are 2 pathways of getting registered. One is where you have the direct pathway, so nothing else will be required of you. They will just issue a letter saying that you meet all minimum requirements for registration as a nurse specialist in Saudi, and then they would register you. The other pathway, which is the most likely pathway for the Kenyans, is that you'll be required to sit what we call the licensure examination. It's called the Saudi Nursing Licensure Examination. So what the Saudi Commission will do is to give you an eligibility number. So that says, yes, they have assessed your minimum, your requirement, the requirements that you have submitted, and they are satisfied that you meet the minimum requirement. But then as a condition to be entered into the roll or into the register of nurses, you need to sit for the licensure examination. So they give you an eligibility number, and then you use this eligibility number to go to the Prometric. We said in our last engagement that Prometric is a USA company that specializes in the delivery of online professional exams on behalf of certain bodies or various bodies across the world. So then with the eligibility number, you're able to go now to the Prometric website, and then you register for sitting for the SNLE. That is the Saudi Nursing Licensure Examination. The cost of the examination as of today is $249. So they're gonna request you for the eligibility number. You put in the eligibility number, and then they will ask you to make a payment of the $249 for you to be able to book a date, and you can prepare to sit for those exams. There are a lot of resources available online. You go to the Saudi Commission for Health Specialties portal, you'll find lots and lots of materials to help you prepare for those exams. Those that are going through HALS Milford, we are going to avail those preparation materials for you. Give or take about 3 or 4 weeks of preparation, you should be ready to sit for those exams. You can sit for those exams while you're here in Kenya as you're waiting for your visas to be issued before travel. Or you can do those exams upon deployment. The employers that you're working with have given an allowance that you can actually do for those exams while you are in Saudi Arabia. Once again, it's always a pleasure to interact with you, to engage with you, to bring more insights to you. And I hope that this information that we keep on bringing to you is going to make your life much easier, and is going to make the process of deployment to you painless and satisfying. I look forward to engaging with you in the next week's session, where we will probably start off on another destination country, or probably speak in a little depth the recruitment process of health professionals in Saudi Arabia. Thank you.